Hello children, how are you? Today our topic of discussion is circulation in vertebrates. We'll discuss today what type of heart is present in these organisms and how many chambers are present in these organisms and how the septae are arranged and various other topics related to vertebrate circulatory system. Let's go. Let's start it. First of all, we'll discuss about the fish circulatory system. Circulatory system in the fish. First of all, answer me a question. What is meant by circulatory system? Yeah, as you already know, circulatory system is a system that delivers nutrients and oxygen to the cell and carries waste products away from the cells. So the same thing is present in fish also. That's what we are discussing today. The blood circulation in the fish. The fish circulatory system is very unlike the human circulatory system. You know that fish does not have lungs, so the blood is not pumped to lungs for purification. So the type of circulatory system that is present in fish is quite different from human circulatory system. What is the type of circulatory system that is present in fish? It is a single circuit and closed circuit system. So at the same time it is having single circuit, it is having closed circuit system. It is said as a single circuit because blood flows only once through the heart in a single circuit. That means in one cycle of circulation of blood in the body, it reaches only once. Blood reaches heart only once. It is called as closed circuit because there are blood vessels. Blood flows in the blood vessels. Let us see what are the parts of a circulatory system in fish. The circulatory system of fish consists of only two chambers, one atrium. In human beings we have two atrium, in fish only one atrium and only one ventricle. Our atrium is a receiving chamber and ventricle is a pumping chamber. Gill capillaries are present, which are present at the gills and help in exchange of gases, and systemic capillaries are present in different body parts and they help in exchange of gases in various body parts. It has an artery that pumps the blood from heart and a vein that sends the blood to the heart. So these are the parts of a fish circulatory system. How does the circulation occurs in the fish? How many chambers are present in the heart? Once say me. There are only two chambers. Fishes have only two chambers, one atrium and one ventricle. Okay, now let us look at the circulatory process in the fish. The fish circulatory system has systemic or capillaries. The blood from the body enters the atrium through sinus venosus. Sinus venosus is a structure that is seen here. Just beside the atrium it is present. On the left side of the atrium, right side of the atrium, you can see that there is sinus venosus. This sinus venosus collect the blood from different parts of the body and it pumps the blood into the atrium. From atrium, the blood enters into ventricle. When the ventricle contracts, the blood enters into a chamber that is present on the left side of ventricle, that is cornus arteriosus. Cornus arteriosus pumps the blood to the gill capillaries. These gill capillaries help in exchange of gases near the gills. They take the oxygen inside and transport the oxygenated blood into various parts of the body. In these different parts of the body, there are capillaries called as systemic capillaries, where the exchange of gases occurs and carbon dioxide enters into the blood. From there again the blood enters through the blood vessel into the sinus venosus and the cycle is repeated. Okay, that is a circulatory system of a fish. Let us summarize the steps. First step that occurs is ventricle pumps the blood, deoxygenated blood, to the gill capillaries where the exchange of gases occurs. That oxygen enters into the blood and carbon dioxide is entering into the water that is present over the gills. Next, the second step. The gill capillaries converge into a blood vessel that carries oxygenated blood to all the parts of body, and in the parts of the body it carries to the systemic capillaries. So that is the second step that is taking place. Now the third step that takes place. Now the blood is present inside the systemic capillaries. At the systemic capillaries, exchange of gases takes place. Oxygen diffuses into the tissues and carbon dioxide diffuses out of the tissue and into the systemic capillaries. That is the third step that takes place. Once the carbon dioxide enters into the systemic capillaries, now the blood that is present inside the capillaries is deoxygenated blood, which passes through the vein and enters into the heart. So that is a final step. The deoxygenated blood is carried from different parts of the body to atrium through sinus venosus. After it enters into the atrium, it enters into the ventricles and the whole process is repeated. So that is the circulatory system of fish, children. Now if we see the similarities of fish circulatory system with other organisms, especially human beings, we have a closed circulatory system. Fishes also have a closed circulatory system. That is, the blood flows into the blood vessels, not in the body sinuses. And it have a heart to pump the blood to different parts of the body, to different cells of the body, and all the veins that are present inside the fish have valves. Just like in human beings, valves are present in fishes also, and blood can flow because of presence of valves in only one direction. Now we have understood the circulatory system of fish. So let us try to understand the circulation in amphibians, taking the example of frog. Circulatory system in amphibians, with the example frog. The circulatory system of amphibians have 3 chambers, 2 auricles and 1 ventricle, and the blood is pumped to lungs for purification. That's why this type of heart is pulmonary heart. If you observe the circulatory system of frog, you can see that there is an auricle on the right side, there is an auricle on the left side, and below both the auricles there is a single ventricle where oxygenated blood from lungs and deoxygenated blood from all parts of the body are mixed in the ventricle. So that is the disadvantage of having only one ventricle in frog. Both oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood mix in the ventricle that is joined by 2 auricles. Okay, after the blood enters into the ventricle, we can see that there is cornus arteriosus, similar to Similar to the structure that is present inside the fishes, we can see that sinus venosus is also present in the frog body. At the same time, cornus arteriosus also is present. Same like the fish circulation, from all the body parts blood enters into sinus venosus, and from sinus venosus it enters into the right auricle, and from there it enters into the ventricle. On the left side, if you see, from the lungs blood enters into the left auricle. From there it enters into the ventricle. Both oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood are mixing in the ventricle, and after the blood is mixed inside the ventricle, cornus arteriosus receives this mixed blood, and the same mixed blood is pumped into lungs also at the same time, and body also. The blood that enters into lungs get oxygenated in the lungs, and it enters back into left auricle. The blood that enters into body parts gets deoxygenated in the body parts, and it is entering into the right auricle from sinus venosus. So that is the circulation in the amphibians. And if you summarize the circulation in amphibians, it is having 3-chambered heart, 2 auricles are present on the upper side, and 1 ventricle is present on the lower side of these both arteries, and blood is pumped to lungs. That is why it is called as pulmonary heart. What are the steps involved in circulation of frog? Let us see. First of all, oxygen poor blood from the body enters into right auricle. After the blood enters into the right auricle, what is the step that takes place is the pulmonary veins carry the oxygenated blood from lungs into the left ventricle. Now the third step that takes place is both oxygenated blood from the right auricle and the deoxygenated blood that is present in the left auricle, both of them mix in the ventricle. Now from the ventricle the blood is pumped into cornus arteriosus, a central part that is present between auricles that can be seen here. Through that cornus arteriosus, the blood pumps into both lungs and the body tissues at the same time. That is, a mixture of blood reaches both the lungs and the body tissues. Neither pure oxygenated blood nor pure deoxygenated blood reaches even arteries, reaches even lungs also, nor the body parts also. Now let us see what are the similarities between amphibians heart and other organisms. We saw that sinus venosus and cornus arteriosus are present both in fish and frog also. And moreover, we can see that the heart of frog is a pulmonary heart, similar to the heart of amphibians or reptiles or birds and human beings. And we can also see that the veins of the frog have valves similar to that of any other vertebrate. So that is after the frog circulatory system, let us understand the circulatory system of reptiles. So till now we saw the structure of fish circulatory system and amphibian circulatory system. In the evolution of vertebrate heart, we saw that fish is having a 2-chambered heart with 1 atrium and 1 ventricle, whereas amphibian's heart has 2 atrium and one ventricle. Now we are studying about the heart of reptiles. In reptiles, there are 4 chambers. Right atrium is present, left atrium is present, right ventricle is present, left ventricle is present. But what is lacking in case of a reptile heart? How is it different from human heart is, in reptiles there is no complete separation between ventricles. That is, the interventricular septum is not fully formed, because of which the oxygenated blood that is coming from all the parts of the body and deoxygenated blood the oxygenated blood that is coming from lungs and deoxygenated blood that is coming from all the parts of body are mixing together because of the absence of a complete septum between the ventricles. If you see other difference between fish, amphibian and reptile heart, you can see that there is no sinus venosus, there is no carnus arteriosus that is seen in fish and amphibians. So coming to the heart of the reptiles, we can say that the type of heart that is present in reptiles is an incompletely divided 4-chambered heart. It's called as an incompletely divided 4-chambered heart because the ventricles separation is not complete. So because of this incomplete septum, it is called as incompletely divided 4-chambered heart, which is present in all the reptiles except in the case of few of the reptiles like crocodiles, alligator and gharials. These organisms, crocodile, alligator and gharials, have a 4-chambered heart with a complete septum in between the right ventricle and left ventricle. The interventricular septum is completely formed in case of these 3 reptiles, that is crocodiles, alligator and gharials. So I'd like to show you the figure of these 3 organisms so that you can understand that these 3 organisms are having a complete 4-chambered heart in reptiles and all other reptiles are having incomplete 4-chambered hearts. Okay, I want you to fix this point in mind that crocodiles, alligators and gharials of reptiles are having a 4-chambered heart with a complete interventricular septum, just like human beings and birds. So there is no mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood in case of these 3 organisms, crocodile, alligator and gharials. So let us fix this point in the mind by observing the figures of these, pictures of these organisms. So that is it, crocodile, alligator and gharial. You can see the organisms. They are almost similar except some differences in the front region near the mouth and all. The structure is somewhat different. So gharial, crocodile and alligators have a complete 4-chambered heart unlike reptiles and very similar to human beings and birds. Now that makes the point clear, children. We'll see the circulation in reptiles in detail. The reptilian heart has 2 atrium and 2 ventricles. But because of a partial septum, the blood do not mix in reptile heart as much as in the frog heart. So there is only partial mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. So here if you observe, from all the body parts, the blood is received, deoxygenated blood is received by right atrium. From right atrium, the blood enters into right ventricle. From right ventricle, the blood, deoxygenated blood, the blood that is not having, that is having carbon dioxide in it, is passed into the pulmonary artery, and from there it is passed into the lungs. And from lungs we can see that the oxygenated blood is entering into the left auricle. The left auricle receives blood that is oxygenated by lungs, and the blood then enters into the left ventricle. Now here we can see that right ventricle is having deoxygenated blood and left ventricle is having oxygenated blood. In case of this reptiles, the circulation is pulmonary circuit and systemic circuit. That means two circuits are present inside the circulation of reptiles. In one cycle of blood circulation in the entire body, once it reaches the lungs and once it reaches all the body parts, you can say that this is a double circuit circulation. The first circuit starts from right ventricle. From right ventricle, the blood is entering into the lungs. From lungs, the blood is getting oxygenated and oxygenated blood is entering into the left atrium. This small circuit is called as pulmonary circuit. The pulmonary circuit helps in oxygenation of the blood. Now the larger circuit is systemic circuit, which starts from left ventricle. From left ventricle, the blood is supplied to all the systemic capillaries, the capillaries that are present in entire body part, different body parts, and from there the blood capillaries collect the deoxygenated blood, and the deoxygenated blood is pumped back into the heart, into the right auricle. So this is the larger circuit and it is called as systemic circuit. That means in one cycle of cardiac cycle, that is one complete circulation of blood in the complete body, there are two circuits. One circuit is pulmonary circuit and the second circuit is systemic circuit. This type of heart is called as a double circuit heart, and the circulation is called as double circuit circulation. This circulation is efficient than frog because of presence of partial interventricular septum, which is absent in frogs, but it is not as efficient as human beings, because in human beings the interventricular septum is complete. There is no mixing of deoxygenated blood in oxygenated blood in any case, not even partial mixing. So this is an advanced type of circulatory system compared to a frog circulatory system, but compared to the birds or human respiratory system, human circulatory system, this circulatory system is a little, it is having a little disadvantage of that is oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood are being mixed in the ventricles. That is one of the disadvantage. If you compare the circulatory system of reptiles with other organisms, you can see that like in frogs and fishes, there is no sinus venosus, there is no carnus arteriosus. So this is a different circulatory system compared to birds and amphibians. But compared to human beings, it is very close to human circulation as well as birds circulation also. Because you can say that here also that it is a double circuit circulation in case of reptiles. In case of human beings also it is a double circuit circulation, just like in reptiles. In case of reptiles, we can see here 4 chambers are present, and human beings also there is a 4-chamber heart. The same process takes place in human circulation and in case of reptile circulation. Only difference is here the reptile heart is having a partial septum and the human heart is having a complete septum, because of which there is a partial mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood in ventricles. But in case of human beings, this mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood is completely absent. So as long as the blood is in the auricles, there is no mixing of blood, that is oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood do not mix at all. But when the blood enters into the ventricles, only after the blood enters into the ventricles there is entering of blood, that is mixing of blood between left ventricle and right ventricle partially. Once the ventricles are pumped, the blood that is present in the right auricle enters into the pulmonary artery and it passes to lungs, and the blood that is present in the left ventricle is pumped into the aorta and it is distributed into the body parts. And they complete the respective circuits, that is the blood that enter into the pulmonary artery enter into the pulmonary circuit, it is getting oxygenated in the lungs and it comes back to heart. And the blood that enters into the body parts gets deoxygenated at the tissues because of entering of carbon dioxide at the various organs, and this deoxygenated blood returns back to the heart, completing the systemic circuit. So that is about the circulatory system of reptiles, children. We can conclude that the circulatory system of reptiles is very much like human beings and very less like frogs or fishes. Okay children, you have understood the circulatory system of reptiles, and we have already discussed the human circulatory system in the beginning in our first video. So the birds or apes circulatory system is similar to mammal circulatory system. So we need not discuss about bird circulatory system again. So with this, we are ending today's topic. I hope you understood the circulation in fishes, amphibians and reptiles. Okay children, study well, stay safe at home. Bye.